Okay, and welcome back, students taking Math for Business and Finance and Math Applications, and we're working through the Chapter 15 word problems, the odd-numbered problems. Now, all we have left for these word problems here are problems 15-15 and 17, and I think I can get through both of these in this particular video. So I'm going to try to keep things a little bit short, but for problem 15-15, all right, it says here mortgage lenders base the mortgage interest rate they offer you on their credit rating. This makes it financially critical to maintain a credit score of 700 or higher. How much more interest will you pay on a $195,000 home if you put 20% down and finance the remaining with a 30-year mortgage at 6% interest compared to a 30-year mortgage at 3.5% interest? Okay, this problem is the same as problem 15-9. So if you want to go back and look at that problem, and in order to have more practice or whatever you need. Okay, so it says here 195,000, and we're putting down 20%. So we multiply by 20%, and we get okay. I'm going to erase this here just for a quick second and just give you, I mean, it popped into my head, okay? I mean, this is just what, doing these for so much time, all right? It's telling us we have 195,000 and at 20%, okay? Well, remember, if this here is 195,000, right? 195,000, that's 100% of it, and we're putting down 20% for our down payment, right? What's the remaining amount? 80% that we are going to be financing, okay? So I could do this one of two ways. I could take the 195,000, multiply it by 20%, find that amount out, then take the 195,000 and subtract that amount in order to get the amount financed. Okay, that's one way of doing it, and you've seen me do that in the past. But just like I showed, if I put a down payment of 20%, the remaining amount that I'm going to finance is 80%. So I can actually take the 195,000 and multiply that by the 80% to find the, and that comes out to 156,000. That's the amount I'm going to finance. So you can see how much more math I saved just because I did a little mental 20% here. This is 80%. Just that little subtraction in the back of my head saved me an extra, big calculation there. Okay. All right. So I'm looking at the amount financed of 156,000. Okay. And when I look at the amortization table, again, that's in thousands, so I drop the thousands and I start out with the 156. So if I'm going to look, I'm comparing one set of circumstances, a 30-year mortgage at 6% against a 30-year mortgage at 3.5%. Okay. Since I'm talking about a 30-year mortgage and I want to know, I'm going to have to figure out the payments, all right, I multiply the 30 years by 12 and get 360 in payments. Okay, so I'm going to have 360 in payments. But I have to find the monthly payment first. So when I look at the table and I'm cross-referencing the 6% at 30 years, I get a factor of 6. All right, which means my monthly payment ends up being $936 per month. And since that's per month, over 30 years, I'm going to multiply by 360 payments, and that's going to equal 336,960, which is the total amount that I'm going to pay. Okay, and if I subtract out the 156,000, I end up with 180,960 in interest. Okay, so I'm going to write that up here, 180,960 in interest. Okay, so that's for this one here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pause and copy all of this down. Okay, and actually you don't have to. I'm going to just try and work through it. So I'm still looking at 156, okay, times, now when I look at the new factor, I'm looking at 30 years at 3.5% on the table. And when I do, I end up with 4.50, okay, and that gives me a monthly payment of $702. And when I multiply that payment of 702 times 360 payments, I end up with 252,720. Okay. And I subtract out the 156,000, and I end up with $96,720 for interest. $96,720 for interest on the second set. Okay, and it's asking me, it said here, how much more interest would you pay on the first one versus the second one? So I'm taking the 180,960 and I'm subtracting the 96,720, and I will end up paying $84,240 more on the first loan versus the second loan. Okay, so again, the process is all the same. All right, just watch for the idiosyncrasies. Like I explained, instead of using 20%, I could use 80% to find out how much was amount financed. All right, and of course, I'm comparing the interest on one loan versus the interest on the other, so I subtract one from the other. So pause the video, rewind, watch it again. If you still don't understand something, feel free to telephone and speak with an instructor. But I'm going to move on to the next problem and be done with this set of videos for word problems. Okay, 15-17 says you can save a significant amount of mortgage interest paid if you make an additional principal and interest payment a year. All right, now give me 1 second here. Let me see here. That problem doesn't come to me right offhand. Okay, anyway, so it says this will reduce a 30-year. I remember what I was talking. Where I remember this from. This was in the theory videos. Okay, I had been talking about the types of mortgage, and one of the types of mortgage was a biweekly mortgage, where if you pay your mortgage biweekly, you actually end up making one extra payment over the course of a year. And if you do that, instead of paying for 30 years on a 30-year mortgage, you actually only end up you pay off that mortgage in 23 years instead. Okay. And then I had explained about adding additional principal, adding additional money. You don't just, when you make a payment, you make the payment for whatever number of dollars. But if you're going to make an additional payment, okay, that additional payment, you write it in a separate check, and you specify on the check, to go against the principal. All right, and this way that reduces how much you have to pay in interest. If you had say $1,000 as your payment, and you added an additional 500, okay, you remember everything goes against the principal. I'm sorry, it goes against the interest first, and then the remainder goes against the principal. And by writing that separate check, it just makes things a lot easier to be able to control how much interest that you're going to pay over the course of the loan. And of course, that reduces how many years you're going to pay. But anyway, so this will reduce the 30-year mortgage by around 6 years, and also increases your equity in the home faster. If you choose to pay one additional mortgage payment a year by paying 1/12 of it each month, make certain to note the extra money is to reduce principal. Geez, didn't I just say that? How much will you pay each month for a mortgage of $150,000 at 3.5% for 20 years? Okay, so the mortgage is $150,000. Okay, and remember, when we're looking at the amortization table, we're dropping off those last 1,000, so we're looking at 150. And when we look up the 3.5% for 20 years, we get a factor of 580, which means our monthly payment is $870. Now, if we're paying 1/12 of it each month, so we multiply 870 by 1/12, so that's 870, 870 times 1 times 12. And when we divide 870 by 12, we end up with 7250. Okay, so if we're, that's 1/12 of the 870. So the amount we're going to pay is 870 plus the 7250. Okay, and that means $942.50, because the question is asking how much will you pay each month. All right, so that's, we had to figure out how much our monthly payment was, which we figured out to be 870, and then we had to take 1/12 of it and add it to the 870 in order to know how much we're going to pay each month. Okay, so with that said and done, if you didn't understand that, again, telephone or contact an instructor, and we will move on to the summary practice test.